So in the first game,
then
he's
when
playing
in the
majority
next game,
defense,
game
players in the
7,
middle
he's the
linebacker
same.
area,
He fucking
and
left
left
inside,
inside,
he up right
right
inside,
inside,
goes
sometimes
sometimes
left.
Very rarely, mostly on the outside. Very rarely still played down. What the fuck, like, is Digaan Gomis' job then? Now, as it happens, quite a lot. Now, it's hard to talk about Digaan Gomis and not mention the Paris defense of this year. Paris have one of my favorite defenses in the entire league. There are a bunch of players I want to talk about, and all of them probably deserve their own video. But for the sake of time, we'll break it down to only a couple. Emir Kalani, one of the best homegrown safeties in the league. He's ferocious, he's aggressive, he's really the heart of this team. You had Chandler Jones, a DB that came in, young from Louisville, made immediate impact before getting injured, but was still a massive part of this team. Jordan Genmark-Heath, a Swedish linebacker who's one of the best prospects that Europe has produced over the last few years. He played at Notre Dame, as well as UCLA. Was later selected in the CFL Global Draft in the first round. He also played for the Philadelphia Stars before coming to the Paris Musketeers. Azan Zetterberg is a multiple-time All-Star, and Marcelo Beard is a Defensive Player of the Year. He had 8 picks last year and was one of the best cornerbacks in the league. You got defensive liners anchored by Edwin Elo. You've got Dawson Dales as a multiple-time All-Star linebacker. Stanley Zeregby, who's a great pass rusher. You've got Jack Lau, Vincent Buffet, Kenny Fourette, Davison La Rochelle, Mamadou Sai, Jordan Havesi, and Kevin Cordero Diaz. There are so many amazing players on this team that deserve their flowers. One of my favourite to watch in the entire league's history. Mattioli, the head coach of Paris since its inception, has put a clear emphasis on athleticism within his defense. He likes players playing a lot of position. We've seen this with Beard. He's playing a lot more safety this year. We've seen it with the inside linebackers moving out to outside and vice versa. He also had high praise of Digaan, noting his speed and athleticism to rush the passer, as well as his flexibility on the defense to improve the looks on defensive sets. So we've talked about the players around him. We've talked about the coaching staff. What do the numbers actually tell us? Now we've got to break down Digaan Gomis' games very slowly, because in each game he was used vastly different. Let's take Digaan versus the Rheinfire, week 4, first game. Mostly defensive end, a staggering 70% of which defensive end. Barely played in the middle. Right inside linebacker only 12%, outside linebacker another 12, left linebacker 6. So mostly on the line of scrimmage, getting after the passer, affecting the run. The next week, 10% of his time was spent at defensive end. 75% of his time was spent in the inside linebacker roles, whether that be left inside linebacker, right inside linebacker, or in the middle. And in this game, he generally was favoured more on the right side, as seen by the right inside linebacker, the right outside linebacker, and also the right linebacker, adding up to 35% of his snaps. And then it all just goes fucking berserk. So, week 7 versus Hamburg. He played nearly everywhere. So we talked about his diversity and his ability to play multiple positions, and if this graph from game 7 doesn't show that, I don't know what does. He played 51% of the snaps on the right, he played 46% of the snaps on the left. Slight trend with him playing more on the right than left, but this is minuscule amounts, and he's playing absolutely everywhere. He even fucking played in a slot in this game. And lastly, we just have a sample size of all of those graphs just added together. Digaan Gomis can play absolutely fucking anywhere you need him to play. Whether that is inside linebacker, outside linebacker, defensive end, as a wide 9 or as a 3-tech, the front 7 in general. Numbers out of the way. Let's get into the actual film breakdown of Digaan Gomis. Firstly, let's talk about his tackling. Now, of course, a player playing multiple positions across the entire defense is going to have to be able to tackle to a high degree. Digaan Gomis absolutely can do that. I will call him an elite tackler in this league. He has extremely high motor, aggressive, he has good vision for gaps in space in the offensive line. He reads the shift of the offensive line extremely well on run and pass situations. He can get outside to put the pressure on the quarterback. His high motor is really something that sticks out from the tape. He is everywhere. He is trying to go sideline to sideline, fucking end zone to end zone. Doesn't matter when he needs to be. Digaan Gomis is absolutely going to try and get there. Now, this is transferable between every position. Defensive end, linebacker, doesn't matter. He's doing the same level of intensity. He's bringing the same level of angles, and I think this speaks to his experience and versatility. Defensive angles from the defensive end standpoint and vision from a defensive end standpoint are vastly different to a linebacker. I touched on that briefly with Chad in the last video, but it's a very different game. and having that versatility and experience in multiple positions is imperative to be able to perform at a high level at multiple positions. There are very few instances where he is shrugged off of a tackle, or doesn't complete a tackle, or isn't around the ball at the point of the tackle. His somewhat conservative approach to tackling as well comes under the radar. You know, he doesn't make these massive hits, these forced fumble, absolute highlight wrecking hits. He just makes consistent, well-placed tackles with good technique, well wrapped, and the use of his hips. Point being, Digaan Gomis, very reliable tackler and a top player in that category within the entire year. Now, Digaan's an inherently underrated player as it is, but what goes massively under the radar is actually his pass coverage. To be honest, there are not very many players in Europe that can cover a linebacker position like Digaan Gomis. Very few, and far in between. Now, he shows very good coverage ability on running backs, tight ends, even wide receivers. Now, we talked about how he is coming into the slot sometimes. That is because he is a good coverage linebacker. What makes him good is the inherent athleticism that we've discussed this entire video, but also his awareness, his switches, his spatial awareness as well is incredibly important for a linebacker, and also isn't very much talked about when it comes to linebacker evaluation at this level. He has good head movement, he's checking the quarterback, he reads the quarterback's eyes, he will flow into positions and switch back to others, his footwork is good. A very solid coverage linebacker, and I very much enjoyed this part of his game. It was a part of his game that I wasn't as familiar with before going into this tape, and I'm very glad I got the opportunity to watch him in coverage go to work. Severely underrated is kind of Digaan Gomis' whole thing at the moment, but his pass coverage is just another layer to that. So as far as all-star potential goes, how can we get Digaan to an all-star level player? Because he absolutely has the ability to do so. The problem with some of that is he plays so many different positions, it's kind of hard to nail him down on one, but there are slight other things as well. Now, Digaan's role is extremely particular. You know, he's a linebacker, he's a defensive end hybrid, we've established that. There are some things in linebacker that I'm going to talk about, there are some things in defensive end I'm going to talk about as well. Linebacker. Burst to close. You know, I did a whole video about Flamor Zimon and how good his burst to close is. It's a lot better than Digaan's. Digaan doesn't have the elite burst explosiveness out of his breaks to come down and complete some of these sacks and tackles for loss as I think he could. As a defensive end, because he's a priority linebacker for most part, he has lacked the depth and ability of a rush bag to consistently beat offensive tackles within this league. Run game especially, he can be overpowered when he's coming on the line against some of these bigger, more stronger, more broader elite offensive tackles. Now, as we mentioned, he comes onto the line for more passing sets as we saw from Coach Mattioli. But an effective, powerful ball rush on run and also just more of an advanced bag would see him graduate into more of an all-star conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. A little bit less intense than the last one, a little bit more relaxed, less angle changes and stuff like that. I'm just trying stuff out, so appreciate everyone. The support's been amazing on all of these evaluations, and I always get a little bit worried about evaluations because it's extremely niche. You know, talking about different players in Europe is a niche subject as it is, let alone scouting and evaluating those certain niche players. However, this was a very fun one to make. Obviously, Digaan won the poll, so people were interested in seeing that one. We'll be doing more polls to decide what players we look at in the future. I want to do a Torre one though. I want to do Torre one. I want to do a Talitza one at some point. I want to do a bunch. So I have a lot of different ideas. I was on the EF Live. I will be on the EF Live again soon. So check out that. I'll be streaming this weekend. This video should be out Friday. Fingers crossed. And then Saturday I will be filming and doing everything else. If this isn't in the outro, you know I fucked up. If it is, you know I did something right. So we're all good. But I'll be streaming Prague and Indurnus most likely, as well as the Berlin-Paris game. So if you are interested in that, tune in. Check out First Down Magazine, because my stuff was going to be posting on that a little bit too, with like the shorts and the collaborate posts and stuff like that. You've probably seen it all around, as well as my power rankings will also go up on there as well. So if you haven't checked them out, do please check them out. They're very, very good people. And yeah, I think that's it. Usual stuff, you know, we're going to go on a bit of a bender with streaming, power rankings, things, and then we'll start getting into film study. But this was a good evaluation, and I'm a fan of Digaan, He was actually a player I did an evaluation on previously, last year, when he went to Paris. So that was good fun to revisit the evaluation. I will link, I'll put that as like a pinned comment or something. If I get away with writing the comment that long, I'll put my evaluation of Digaan in the description or in the comments, pinned comment. Yes, all good. I'm rambling. Thank you for watching. As always, stay safe, stay sharp. See you later. Thank you and goodbye.